Catch the Power Breakfast. Power Breakfast. Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 a.m.
6 o'clock in the morning.
With Shekinah and Fortress.
Good morning.
The Queens of Breakfast.
And joining them on the Power Breakfast, my name is Patrick Chifwamba. This is Voice of the People. Good morning to you, Shekinah. Our guest this morning, Mr. Isaac Mwanza. Good morning.
Good morning, Patrick. How are you?
You are the Civil Executive Director of the Zambia Civil Liberties Union.
Indeed. The Zambian Civil Liberties Union is an organization that promotes good governance, constitutionalism, and humanitarian justice. And I was appointed the executive director in 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
What should one understand about civil liberties?
So civil liberties, these are liberties that people have. They are freedoms and rights. So for instance, here in this country, we have rights, such as the right to expression, the right to association, the right to movement. All these constitute part of the civil liberties.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how does one assure through your organization that those rights are protected?
So our organization first is involved into litigation. You have seen that we've taken a number of cases to court of late. In fact, we started this idea of taking matters to court as an organization even before I joined in 2015. Yeah, so we litigate on various matters, not just on the rights, but also you look at matters such as the constitution, governance matters. The Kabushi case, we had to take it ourselves. Remember the Kabushi saga? We had to go to court over the Kabushi saga. We were joined by President Sinkamba of the Green Party to ensure that there is democracy and constitutionalism, that nothing is breached in our constitution. So we try to enforce rights through going to court to litigate, but also to just raise awareness amongst our people. For instance, the refugees. Refugees have rights now, and you have the Refugees Act, which provides for rights for refugees, and most of them do not know what rights they have. So we try to enforce those rights, and we have taken a matter of the refugees to court. It was, I think it's coming up for hearing in June, where we are trying to seek to enforce those rights.
Well, what is your take on the current discussion around the Constitution and its proposed amendments?
The Constitution, first, I must state that it's a people's document. Which means that it's a supreme law where the people have given themselves a constitution to say this is how the way we are going to be governed. In the way that the constitution must be amended, I know we are talking about the amendment process of the constitution. Now, how do we amend the constitution? The constitution itself has outlined a procedure on how it must be amended. And that is what the people said to say, when you want to amend this constitution, you must follow this procedure. And the procedure is in Article 79, which says that there must first be a bill which has been drawn up, and this bill must be published 30 days, at least 30 days, before the introduction in the House. And it must go through the first, second, and third reading, with 2/3 at the second and third reading. Now, what is the level of engagement? Because I think the topic has been, how should the people be engaged in this process? We must distinguish two processes here: constitutional making and constitutional amendment. Constitutional making is where you are coming up with a totally new constitution, as we have been trying to attempt under in 1973, various times when we have set up the Constitutional Review Commissions or the Technical Committee, where it goes around the country to try and consult everybody broadly. So when you are doing constitutional amendment, there is limited consultations that is required by the stakeholders and not the broader engagement that we have been talking about, we have been hearing about.
So then now, I would say within your experience and what you've noticed and seen, how would you describe the current political atmosphere within the nation?
Well, I think the current atmosphere is still volatile. It's volatile in the sense that, look, when President Hichilema came into power, I think there was a promise that people's civil liberties will be respected, that there will be a rule of law which will apply to everyone else. We're not seeing a difference from what was happening under the Patriotic Front per se. We see a lot of prosecutions happening targeted at the opposition political parties. Those things used to happen even under the PF. We see people being denied the right to associate, to freely assemble. No political party, I think just few political parties, probably President Harikalawa and his party have been given permission to hold these rallies. Now, that is the tension that we see on the political scene in the nation, and it's quite unfortunate that we're at this stage when we should not have been at this stage. I think that the UPND could have done better by allowing more people to assemble, to express themselves. And with the bills that are coming up, the cyber bills and all that, that becomes a bigger challenge. Because with the cyber bills now enhancing the cyber crimes, where even journalists' phones can be searched, they can grab your phones, they can grab your computers, search them. It means that your sources are not protected, because journalism is about protecting the sources. Now, if the law enforcement officers are going to come up and just search, get the computers and begin to search, it means that even your sources can be unveiled. So these are some of the setbacks that we have seen in terms of the people enjoying the freedoms. We hope that the president will not sign the bills. Although the rumor is that he has already assented to the bills, we don't know. We have not verified, but we had hoped that these bills should not have been signed and sent back to Parliament for them to look at the provisions that are retrogressive. Other provisions are okay.
So would you say that possibly this current government is trying to silence the opposition with their actions?
Well, I think that it's just been a part of this political game by every other regime that comes in power. I wouldn't say this is what this government is trying to do, but it's been the politics of this country, from UNIP to MMD to the PF and now UPND. Nothing has changed. You have to struggle as the opposition to try and wrestle power. It's not supposed to be like that in a democracy. In a democracy, people are supposed to be free. They are supposed to express themselves, and not what we have been seeing over the past years.
So within a democracy, we know that one of the key factors, or one of the key pinnings of it, is that there's supposed to be checks and balances, especially by the opposition. Would you say that at the moment, the current opposition that we have, are they providing credible checks and balances?
With the current environment that we have in the country, where I think that some people are getting scared to speak out because they think that they might land in jail, it's quite a challenge for the opposition to do that effectively. But I think that generally speaking, we see the opposition talking. We have seen a number of political leaders that speak. The bigger challenge which is there when we talk about expression as well is that, you see, when we talk about freedom of expression, it is not to insult. You can engage in effective checks and balances without maligning each other, without mudslinging. That is what is wrong in a democracy. But generally speaking, the opposition must provide effective checks and balances to the government. We think that they can do better as the opposition. They have not done their best. There is a fragmentation in the opposition, where people don't even know what will happen next year, who's going to be the leader that will stand on the opposition. So there's actually just this disillusionment in the way things are happening.
Mr. Moses, back to the issue of the constitutional amendments. Is this the right time to undertake such an exercise?
Generally speaking, I'll tell you that there's no right time ever. There is never a right time to take the constitutional amendment, because in my view, we must avoid or minimize making amendments to the Constitution for a longer period of time. So when we say which is the right time for the amendments, I would say that there is no right time. But we can look at examples in the region. South Africa came up with a constitution in 1996, you know that. The first amendment which was made to the Constitution of South Africa was in 1997. South African Constitution has undergone 18 amendments from 1996 up to date. Some of the amendments were made in an election year or before an election year. The 18th amendment to the South African Constitution was made in 2023, which was just a year before an election. The same we can talk about Botswana. Botswana had 22 amendments to their constitution. And all these constitutions, Botswana and South Africa, they are 1996 constitution. So if they've amended 18 times at the minimum, we're talking about almost every year you can calculate how many amendments could have been made every year. So amendments to the constitution should be amended on the basis of the need and not on the basis of the time. But also, there must be a level of consultation with stakeholders when you're doing amendments. Even in South Africa, when they're amending the constitution, they would go to the provinces. There's what they call the National Council of Provinces, NCOP. They go to these bodies to consult them. They also consult civil society generally to make an input, although they do not go to the people broadly, but they go to these institutions to consult them. So my answer is there's never a right time to amend the constitution. So it could be this time if we agree on the issues that are in the constitution. It means that Parliament can proceed to do the amendment.
As the Civil Liberties Union, were you consulted over the proposed amendments?
Directly, no. We've never submitted to any government, to any institutions currently. But I would tell you to say that the consultations over these amendments span over a longer period of time. You remember that the issues that they have brought up, for instance, the proportional representation system, it was there in 2016 when we were amending the constitution, and the Patriotic Front regime under President Edgar Lungu decided to shelve these to a later time after consultation. When were the consultations done? They were done between 2017 to 2019, which culminated in the Bill 10. And so Bill 10 had the PRR system, which was called the Mixed Member Proportional Representation System. That was because there were consultations. And a number of the provisions, I can tell you almost all provisions, it's either somebody submitted, like the Zambia Law Development Commission, that submitted on the issue of child and adult, redefining that. Other institutions submitted on the Secretary to Cabinet in terms of the qualification. So, broadly speaking, I think that we are just trying to build on what was left to finish the mission. For me, I don't think that is a challenge. The only problem which is there is that we have seen certain clauses that have been included in the Constitution where there was no agreement even amongst the Zambian people, such as taking members of Parliament back into the councils. Now, that is a retrogressive provision. Why am I saying it's retrogressive? It's retrogressive in the sense that members of Parliament belong to the legislature, the legislative arm of government. The councils belong to the executive arm of government. So when you take the legislature, the entire legislature into the executive, you're compromising separation of powers.
But some would say that there's a disconnect at the moment, especially to do with CDF, where the members of Parliament are not present in the councils.
I don't know what they want to do if they get into Parliament. Do they want to start implementing CDF? That should be the question. I think we must distinguish the roles of Member of Parliament and the councils. A Member of Parliament is basically elected to make the laws and not to begin to implement projects in their constituencies. Even those campaigns that they make to say, when you elect me, I'm going to build this road, I'm going to do that, those are lies. Those are purely lies. We're supposed to be telling the Zambian people to say, when you elect me, I'm going to represent you when I go to lawmaking. I'm going to help to lobby for development. But not that you are going to do it. The people who are supposed to develop this country is the government. And it must develop the country fairly, regardless of which constituency belongs to which party. That is the duty of the central government and the local government through the councils. So the idea of going back to the councils is just an idea of we want to lay our hands on the CDF, you know, which is a very, very bad idea. It's actually retrogressive to think that MPs want to control CDF. If there are problems in CDF, you know the problems which have been there, the CDF report. If these problems arise, who is going to provide the checks and balances in Parliament when you are the ones that were involved in the implementation, in the decisions making of what projects to do? So it will reduce even the accountability on the part of the councils. Now they can boldly speak against the misappropriations of CDF funds because they are not there. But once they are there will be no effective checks and balances.
This is Voice of the People on the Power Breakfast. Our guest this morning, Mr. Isaac Mwanza, is the Executive Director of the Zambia Civil Liberties Union.
And you can call us up right now as well. Send us your messages, your questions, your queries. That's on 0955 997 997 or on 0979 192 485. Now, Mr. Mwanza, you are one of the people that challenged the National Assembly's decision to declare the Petaoke parliamentary seat vacant. And you said this is a jurisdiction of the High Court, and the former Pambashe MP Ronald Chitotela's seat also became vacant following his conviction. Do you agree with the way the National Assembly has handled such occurrences so far?
I don't agree with the way the National Assembly has been handling these matters, and that is why we as Zambian Civil Liberties Union took that matter to court. Now, if you look at Pambashi and Petaoke, there is a slight difference. The Member of Parliament for Pambashi and Kawambwa were convicted by the court and were incarcerated. They were sentenced to a term of imprisonment. And our constitution says that when you are sentenced to a term of imprisonment, you are serving that term, whether it is a day or it is a week, whether it is a month, whether it is 6 months, you get to lose the seat. You cannot keep that seat. So a seat of a Member of Parliament falls vacant by operation of the law. So if you are convicted, you'd 4 seats. Now, in terms of a Member of Parliament who absconds himself like JJ Banda, if you are not in Parliament for a number of sittings, who is supposed to determine that question? There are 2 issues here. The law says when the question arises, if you read section 96(1) of the Electoral Process Act, it says when a question arises, whether a seat of a Member of Parliament has fallen vacant, the court that is supposed to hear it is the High Court. Those are the ones to determine, not the Speaker. If it is about the breach of code of conduct, in JJ's case we are told that there is a breach of a code of conduct, that he has breached a code of conduct. What is that code of conduct? It's the Parliamentary and Ministerial Code of Conduct. Who determines that there is a breach of code of conduct in that case? It is not Parliament. It is not members of Parliament. It is a Chief Justice who constitutes a tribunal, a judicial tribunal, to hear such an allegation. Was that done? No, it was not done. Look at members, the judges themselves. Can you, as the court, sit and say, no, because this judge has breached the code of conduct, we have decided that this judge is not going to be there? As a court, you just decide it like that. No, you can't. You must allow the other body on the other side, which is the JCC, to sit and determine the breach of code of conduct. The same happens with councillors. Councillors is explicitly clear. When you breach a code of conduct again, it is a Chief Justice who sets up a tribunal to see whether you have really been absent in the councils. The council cannot just resolve as they did in Parliament to say, we are making a resolution here that 7 days you come back, if you don't come back. No. That's Animal Farm. This is not a country where you just wake up today and decide and say, this is what is going to happen. We have laws in this country. You know?
So if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is that the by-election should not have taken place?
The by-election should not have taken place. And we have told the court clearly to say that this by-election was illegal and should not have taken place. And we hope that the court are going to find the conduct of Parliament as a breach of the Constitution. Now, when you breach a constitution, if you read Article 1(2) of the Constitution, it says any act or omission against the Constitution is illegal. Means that if the decision was illegal, it means that the ensuing by-election itself was illegal. So we hope that the court is going to find in that order to say it was illegal to do what the Speaker did and the Parliament itself, such that now the question will be thrown back to the High Court to determine. They must make a determination whether there was really a breach of a code of conduct.
So if they determine that, it means that what? Honorable Banda could be reinstated?
if they determine that, automatically that's what it means. That you would have to go through a process. There must be a process to determine that there is a breach. So the court can even refer it to the tribunal and say, no, we refer this matter to the tribunal. Okay, then after declaring that it was illegal, then they will refer it to the tribunal. Then the tribunal will determine whether there was a breach of a code of conduct or not. If they find that indeed there is a breach of code of conduct, that's when the seat will fall vacant. That's when the Petaoke by-election would be conducted lawfully. For us, it's about doing things in accordance with the Constitution. You know, and this is why even we filed this petition before the by-election. The by-election. We went to the court and told them to say, can you stop this by-election until you determine this matter? The court said, no, we can't stop it. You know, this is a process by the statutory functions, but the petition will be heard fully by the court. Now that we have given them the position, it is them now to decide. Are they going to endorse the illegality or they are not going to endorse the illegality? The question rests with them.
So the proposed amendment whereby we would do away with by-elections, you're in support of that? Where it would go to the next best candidate? So we are very cautious with that. You know, we need to be very, very cautious with that proposal. I know the Zambian people don't want by-elections. It's costly. It's very costly, but democracy is a cost as well. Now, how are you going to replace a member of parliament? For instance, let's imagine this is an independent member of parliament who has died or has resigned or has been removed from office. How do you replace this member? Are you going to pick the second person who came out second, like if it was the NCP or it was UPND? When the people did not vote for that candidate belonging to NCP or Tonse Alliance or UPND, are you going to force that candidate on the people? Those are the questions we must be asking ourselves. For political parties, it might be easier to say a political party, a person who stands on a political party can be replaced by the party itself. It's okay, it might be okay. But we must also look at these external scenarios where if you are going to choose a system where you pick the second might have, if the second was standing in an election, he came second, and then he defected to another party after a year, belongs to a UPND, for instance, it was PF, the second was PF, and now belongs to the UPND. And you want to replace this is the person who's going to take over. It means that you have given a seat to the other party. So these are the disadvantages of trying to look at these matters in that order. What am I saying in the longer term? What I'm saying is that we must devise a better system. We shouldn't just think to say it's easier to do away with by-elections.
And so now I would say one of the phrases that have come up a lot more with the discussions that have been happening lately is rule of law. For somebody who's hearing this but don't really understand what it is, what is it, and would you say has this government really upheld that?
Well, I think that when we talk about the rule of law, that would be a general question. And I would tell you that we have seen certain changes that have been made, progress that has been made under this administration. Every other administration, we have seen progress, but also we have seen setbacks. So we can't say that it's totally, this administration is pure, they are angels. No. There are things that they have done which is wrong, but there are things which they have done which is right and advancing the rule of law. For instance, when you talk about cadres, the issue of cadreism, you know how that practice was rife. Now, I think that people are able to associate, we are not hearing so much of the beatings. Not that it is not there. There is a way that these cadres have reinvented themselves to become sophisticated, to be in the markets and controlling the bus stations in a subtle manner. Okay? But it is much better than when you would wear a party regalia and be beaten on the street. I think this is the kudos that we can give to President Hakainde Hichilema, that he has managed to try and tame these overzealous cadres. He still needs to do more. He still needs to continue emphasizing to his cadres that he is not going to tolerate that. But we have seen his cadres lately also becoming more lawbreakers, and they go scot-free. Okay, I don't see the difference between Waimi, that young man, Waimi who insults, and some of the cadres within the UPND who have been insulting the former president. And those who have been insulting the former president have been let to go scot-free. Why, when the other party is always anybody who insults the president, the current president or the ministers, you have Munia Zulu being jailed. I think this difference is amazing, and I think that the president needs to look into that. We can't continue a selective application of the laws. If anybody makes those comments which are threatening other people using the cyberspace, the cyber law must be applied fairly to both sides.
This is Voice of the People. You can actually also interact with us. If you've got any questions, queries, comments, additions, subtractions, you can do so by calling us up on 0955 997 997 or even on 0979 192 485. And we are giving you the power to speak up. In case you've just tuned in, our guest in studio is Mr. Isaac Mwanza, who is the Executive Director of the Zambia Civil Liberties Union. And well, now, Mr. Mwanza, you've touched on the Cybersecurity Act as well, and even the cyber crimes bills that were passed by Parliament on the 31st of March. So MISA Zambia is one of the stakeholders that have expressed concern over the two bills, saying that they lack strong protections against potential misuse and even grant excessive power to the executive. Now, what are your thoughts on those two bills, especially seeing as you are here in a media entity, if I should say? Does that then curb us? Does that cut us basically at the knees?
Maybe before you come in, let me just squeeze in a call real quick. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning? Your names, please.
My name is from Tupi.
Okay, go ahead with your question or contribution.
Comment yanga moderator mwakamba mushe maningi. Kulingana na government ilipo ine trust ninalo singa trust just because tifuno services na Zambiani. Bali monga ya Munia Zulu, which means is only monga ni process move in the plan kudara just because of veve court ya bela kambatia ndani uyo tamumanga wanu yezeni wa madam speaker no bolo kambati sipana picha na 3 days or 2 days no bolo kambatia uyo mundu kukositi kwake kuli vacant, which means is the plan move. So avareve all over kambati 2026 wafuna ti constitution yao ipite, wafuna ti ikemo ma disabled, ma youth na vandani na ma women siza kaseleza just because of parliament ngati ni youth in parliament ati kambira kuisema Zambiani then leve waona ti huyu azatipoka ulita huyu so timukamate. The example kuri Munia Zulu ati kambirako but leve vari busy na eve so ndiye plan move yezepo. So government yatu isazigwira vantu chigwire vatipase unga wochipa kulingana na mwema natipromisira. Government yatu yatipanisha zona malaiti zimu isa enjoy tavene market but uko kuna media vachita enjoy na ku Mozambique.
Okay.
24/7 siaenda every hour and day.
We get the gist. Thank you. Would you want to comment on that? Or maybe let's squeeze in another one. Good morning. You're through the Voice of the People.
Hello.
Good morning to you. Your names, please, and where are you calling from?
This is Mwata. I'm calling just within Nsaka.
Please go ahead with your question or contribution.
Who's in the studio there?
Mr. Isaac Mwanza.
Mr. Mwanza, morning.
Good morning, Mwata.
Yes, let me talk in Bemba.
Please go ahead. Hello, good morning. Please go ahead. We seem to have lost him. Good morning, you're through the Voice of the People. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Your names and where you're calling from?
My name is Nancy. I'm going from here.
Okay, Mister, go ahead with your question or contribution.
I want to answer the question.
Sorry, come again? Sorry, come again? Go ahead with your question or contribution.
My name is Nancy.
Go ahead with your question or contribution.
Contribution.
What is your contribution?
I want to contribute.
Please go ahead.
Okay.
Seems like Mercy doesn't want to contribute. Maybe Mr. Mwanza will go ahead and allow you to answer maybe to the previous caller.
Yeah, so I would, again, I want to repeat that the Speaker of the National Assembly has no power to declare a seat vacant. And what we saw in the Lumezi case, in case of Munia, was not a declaration of a seat vacant by the Speaker. What the Speaker did was simply to notify the Commission to say, by operation of the law, the seat for Munia Zulu has fallen vacant. Unfortunately, that's what it is. But we are used as Zambians to think that the Speaker declares a seat vacant. No. When the vacancy has happened, the Speaker simply writes to notify the Commission under Article 72(8) to say this seat has now fallen vacant. So she did not declare the seat vacant, but she informed ECZ that the vacancy has occurred because of the imprisonment of a member of Parliament. I think that's what I would say with that. Now, coming to
Chakana's question.
The questions on the cyber crimes bill. I fear for the media. I fear for investigative journalists. I fear for journalists generally when we look at this law. And why I fear for them is that, you see, this law has brought in a lot of vagueness in the manner that it has been couched, such that people would not know exactly what they'll be penalized for, what they'll be searched for. It is allowing excessive power to law enforcement officers to simply get into to a telecoms provider and do a search without even asking for that permission to do the search. Previously, we had the Attorney General was involved and the courts were involved. Now, when you are going to go that path, it means that nobody is safe. People will check what you are doing. And for investigative journalists, investigative journalism, which is what you, our colleagues, do in the media, an investigative journalist will not go to people that are committing a crime, that are talking on the phone, to ask them to say, I want to record the conversation that you are having. Now we have made it sure that anybody who records a conversation without permission will be liable to imprisonment, including journalists. Now, these will be the defenses that people will be bringing up to say, you recorded my conversation. So we have watered down certain provisions of the laws that we had made, such as the Whistleblowers Act, the SCC Act, which protects whistleblowers. People will be scared to do that. A journalist will be scared to dig out such information, knowing to say, it might be me who might be convicted. You know, and just the idea of going to court because you are doing your professional work is not a good idea. So the law should have had exemptions for the media practitioners to say these are exempted. And it should also have referred to the whistleblowers protection to say anybody who does it in accordance with the whistleblowers protection is not going to be liable. Because if I just come here, I know that there is evidence of wrongdoing on this computer. As a whistleblower, I can pick it up. But just that question of picking it up becomes an offense, even if what I was exposing was wrong, you know. So there should have been exceptions that should have been made. And the problem with the vagueness of the law is that, you know, it doesn't tell us who is supposed to be criminalized. And those are the things that we have been going to court with. We hope that even in this matter, we are studying it. We might go to court and challenge this cyber crimes bill because of the vagueness. We were just in court, you know, the Section 155 petition, the ones that people are saying, no, it's a gay petition. Anyway, that's a talk for another day. But we've challenged that law on the basis that it is vague. A law must never be vague. A law must be clear as to what conduct is being criminalized and the sanctions which are there. That is what our Constitution says. You must have a law that is defined. When we talk about defined, we mean it must be clear, it must have boundaries, it must set the limits. You can't just criminalize everybody because you think that will be our target, and suppose another regime comes and says, no, I think we can also use it on that person, the other person. So this is the problem with that law.
So now a question that a lot of people have been saying is, possibly, is this a witch hunt in play?
Or is it an oversight?
It wasn't an oversight. I think when they were framing this law, a lot of institutions, including media bodies, media owners, came together to try and show the problem in that law to the drafters, to the government. And they had promised them to say, we are going to attend to them, we are going to put some safeguards in the law to ensure that people are protected. But they didn't. You see, that's the challenge. They didn't. So it's not an oversight at all. Is it a witch hunt? We don't know. We can't be sure until when we see the law being operationalized at this point. But definitely, this is not a very good law, especially that it is vague, it is ambiguous in a number of cases. If you look at the terminologies that are being used there, you have to Google. Now, a person should not Google to understand what is meant in the law, to say what activity is being prohibited by a law. You shouldn't go to Google. The law must be as clear as possible to say this is a conduct which is being prohibited.
This is Voice of the People. You can call us up, send us your messages. That's once again on 0955-997-997 or even on 0979-192-485. If you've got any questions or any areas that need just a little bit more explanation or clarity, you can definitely call us up as we're giving you the chance to speak up. And our guest in studio is Mr. Isaac Mwanza, who's the Zambian Civil Liberties Union Executive Director.
Hello, good morning. You to the Voice of the People.
Yeah, sorry, this is Mata. My apology for the interruption.
Please go ahead.
Yes. Mine is a question to Mr. Mwanza.
Yes.
The way the law has been applied in this country. For instance, we have seen the court has granted an injunction against sorry for maybe mention names, Mr. This guy who masquerades to be the PF president, and Mr. Mao Sampa applied for the injunction, and the court has granted the injunction, and that guy is still masquerading as a PF president. So, Munjeliko, why the court did not, cite him with a contempt of court? My question to Mr. Mwanza, what is your take on that one? Thank you very much.
Mr. Mwanza, maybe you can go ahead and answer that.
So it is very, very sad that whenever we are doing politics in this country, we tend to cross the line to disrespecting the judiciary. When the judiciary makes an order, that order must be obeyed, whether you like it or not, whether you are a politician, whether you are connected to the powers that be, you must obey that order. And in the case that we're talking about here, there was an order that Mao Sampa obeyed when the injunction was granted to stop him from expelling dissolving the Central Committee and also relieving Mr. Ngona of their duties. Now, that is a matter that is in court, but I just want to state this, that it's important in a democracy, in a constitutional democracy where there is a rule of law, for players to respect the courts. When we disrespect the court orders, it becomes a basis of anarchy. It's a recipe for anarchy in the country. And those that are disrespecting court orders, especially politicians, they should know that these things usually come back to haunt them later or so in future. We can only implore at this point, even for the state, they know that what has happened in that matter, the Mao's matter, that there is no longer an injunction, there are actions that are supposed to be taken. It is up to them to see how the law should be implemented. Now that there is no court order, I think that there are certain repercussions that are supposed to happen, but that matter is still in court. So I would not comment any further than that because we might be cited ourselves and the station for sub judice. Yeah.
And so now my question is, with the same cyber bill, who do they protect if whistleblowers, if the media cannot even do investigative journalism?
So they're trying to put, so first, the cyber crimes bill is a very good bill. The intention was good. Not that it is a good bill totally, no. It is certain provisions which are not okay. But for instance, provisions where you protect the children from the cyber crimes that are happening, provisions which protect you and me from being what should I say? You know, when we go on the cyber space, people get our details. They want to use our details, pretend I'm Shakaina, I've lost my phone, please send me 2,000 kwacha, I need to do this. Those are cyber crimes. They're trying essentially to protect you and me against those cyber criminals who are trying to use the cyberspace to extort money from us, to abuse our identity, steal our identity and abuse it for their own personal gains. But the provisions which are making it toxic are those provisions which are not protecting whistleblowers, which are not protecting media practitioners, especially investigative journalism, which are not protecting media houses. Because it is not just a journalist who would be cited who can be liable under that. Even a media house itself, just for publishing, you know, it uses the word for publishing. So a journalist will be responsible for having collected that information. A media house will be responsible for publishing that information. So those are the provisions where we are saying we needed some safeguards to be made. And we hope that these safeguards will be introduced at some point. But if not, I think that the only action that we have is to take this matter to court and let the court pronounce themselves on some of the provisions. We can only hope that our judiciary is going to do a good job. I think we have no doubt with the High Court. The High Courts in this country have been top of the game. There are other courts which I think have been doubtful in the manner that they've been making decisions. But if you look at the High Courts, they've made decisions against even the state in certain matters. So I am prayerful that when these matters go to court, those provisions which are toxic will be removed. But generally, the cyber bills, cyber crimes, and cyber security are very important in trying to protect all of us as citizens against bullies, against criminals who use the cyberspace. They are important in protecting our children from being exposed to criminality. You know, like you can be, a child can be picked from here, taken using the cyberspace. You know, people just begin to trade in children using the cyberspace. So it's very important to have this bill, but we need to remove the toxic provisions.
Okay, and this is Voice of the People. Once again, as we get to wrap up this segment, you can still call us up, send us your questions, your queries, your additions, your subtractions, and that is on 0955 997 997 or even on 0979 192 485. And well, now, Mr. Mwanza, can we compare the upholding, if I should say, of the rule of law within this regime to the previous one? If so, what would you say?
That's a very difficult question. It's a difficult question in the sense that I've explained to you that there are certain things that have been done rightly under this regime, where we have given kudos to the president and his administration. But there are also many things that have been done wrongly in terms of upholding of people's rights, fundamental rights to expression, assembly, especially political parties. The business of political parties is one where you're supposed to interact, sell yourself to the people. How are you going to sell your product to the people if you are not being allowed to hold meetings, demonstrations, and all that? So, in that respect, this government and the previous regime, they are the same when it comes to breaching people's fundamental freedoms, especially political freedoms, such as the holding meetings.
Let me see if I can squeeze in a call real quick. Good morning, you're through the Voice of the People.
Hello.
Good morning to you.
Morning.
Your names and where you're calling from, and your question, please.
Peter Mwansa. I'm calling from Tendere.
Please go ahead with your question or contribution.
Yes, there's just a question from Mr. Mwansa.
Please go ahead.
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Morning, Mr. Peter.
Yes. Mwansa, ndifandi kusheko ine. Mundo ndoreko buno. Understanding pari president pari va Mao Sampa vatira tini va president va PF va nani vari sarwa muri pa 24 October. So ngani chichi ngani president wa PF akangwa pada most chichi na president wa paka matero. You see, so let's wonder why Kawali and Pukunan party president. But it's not a kind of help nani yavera nani yavera nani matero nani matero constituency piwe vacant. Pero chali shani bakuti basabwe vena ba Mausampa pa 24 October. Chonse basasi chinja kweze kuletoka the kusanga kati aba elected qualify ya announce to tulipata ama nani kulia munugushi conference center tulamsara president qualify itampata for baba ni president Mausampa.
Thank you, Peter.
Mulechi munapumwa mtu ndore chali shani maybe na mwisho hapo
chali shani.
Yeah, so, but Peter, I think that, the PF issue has been a mess from the beginning. And what has made it even much more messier, is the Registrar of Society. We cannot be using state institutions to try and weaken political parties. And for me, the Registrar of Society under the Ministry of Home Affairs is responsible for the mess that has happened within the PF. Because if the registrar had the PF constitution, and all political parties give their constitution to the registrar, they know how people are supposed to be replaced, when conventions are supposed to be held. You cannot just allow every Jim and Jack to say, today I'm holding a convention for UPND, and whether President Ichilema is there or not, I've held a convention and I'm going to file in, and then the registrar just accepts it like that. I don't think that it can happen even to the UPND. I don't think it can happen. But that said, is that those are the matters that are in court. They were challenged in court. The problem which we have had is that these institutions of governance are not helping the growth of our democracy, especially intra-party democracy. You cannot have a matter that has been dragging all along from 2022 up to date. The matter is not being adjudicated. What are the courts doing? If the courts were proactive, the courts would have given the decisions over these disputes between the Edgar Lungu faction and the Mausampa faction, the Mausampa faction and the Chabinga faction. So it is the slow wheels of justice which are a problem as well, which has necessitated the situation where the PF are in. But much more important, I must mention that it is the registrar of society who's at the center of this mess. And it is sad, very, very sad, that you have the registrar who has reached this status of being compromised to an extent where they would meddle into political party affairs with disregard, impunity to the party constitutions which they are supposed to uphold. Like I've said, I don't expect anybody to hold a convention for UPND and oust out President Hakainde Hichilema and becomes the president of that party, and the registrar decides to change office bearers willy-nilly. No.
Can an organization such as yours take the registrar to task? Take him or to court?
I'll tell you, in the background, we have written to the Chief Justice over this matter. The fact that we have not publicized our position was out of respect for the judiciary. We had written to the Chief Justice on the 2nd of January, 2025, to express our concerns over this delay in the justice system in the way they are handling these matters. Now, I will not go into it because I said we wanted to respect the judiciary because they responded to us. And I might be drawn to give the response which they gave in that matter. But we are very active in the background to try and hold these institutions accountable. For the registrar of society, I think the matter is already in court. And all we can plead with this government, this administration, is that in terms of the rule of law, don't apply it selectively. What we saw in the PF, what has happened to the PF is a selective application of the rule of law. And that is very sad for the registrar. People that are supposed to be involved in the upholding the law shouldn't have gone that far. So these people are doing it, are acting. Every civil servant is acting in the name of the president. But sometimes the president is brought into this unfairly by these actions which should never be tolerated in a democracy. And I think that I want to urge President Hakainde Hichilema to put his foot down. When he came into power, he came with a very strong promise that there will be the rule of law under his regime. What we are seeing happening with the registrar trying to dissect the Patriotic Front using factions is not the rule of law at all. It is never the rule of law. And I think that it is up to him as a president to guide his Minister of Home Affairs and other institutions that are involved to say, can we respect party constitutions? Because the same thing that is happening to PF today might happen to us tomorrow when we are not in power. How are we going to feel? Those are the things that a visionary person must always look at. To say these things that are happening now, they might happen to UPND when they lose power. That will be, that's reducing our democracy. It's retrogressive. And so the president must stand his foot and say, this is the direction that I'm giving. Minister of Home Affairs, keep off the affairs of the Patriotic Front. Let the courts handle it and handle it expeditiously in the interest of promoting constitutionalism and democracy. We can't be going to Parliament every year talking about the national values of constitutionalism and democracy. Yet, these things are happening in our political parties, yet our democratic space is not all right. I think it is unfair.
As we wrap up, Shikana, maybe one final question.
All I have to say is for the one who's listening right now, you're at home, you are a regular person, you don't really understand much. How can you ensure that you, number one, find out information on how to understand what your rights are, what your responsibilities are, and how you can actually hold accountable, be it your MP, be it even the government? What can you do if you're saying, I want to do something, but what? So
the first thing that I encourage Zambians is that let us develop a culture of reading. A culture of reading is very important. I read the Constitution every day because it's a supreme law of the land. Not just because I'm trained to be a lawyer, but because it's a supreme law of the land. We must develop the culture of reading to know our rights in the Constitution. The Constitution itself says one of the duties that a citizen has, if you look at Article 43, one of the duties that we have is to ensure that we understand the Constitution. That's an obligation. So let us develop that culture of reading so that we know our rights which are in the Constitution. But also, as a civil society organization, we are busy trying to educate the people. We are in the camps, the refugee camps, to try and educate our refugees to say, these are the rights that you are having. We need to scale up the efforts as civil society. We also need to tell the public to say, Zambian Civil Liberties Union will be launching an online platform on our website, www.zclu.org, where when you have human rights violations, when you know to say your right has been violated, or you know somebody's right is being violated, the person is being beaten by the police or is being tortured, you can report that violation by logging into our website, just going to our website and give us the details. And if you have the pictures, you also provide the pictures, you upload the picture. Because beginning this year, end of this year, we'll be producing what is called the Human Rights Report. So we'll have an annual Human Rights Report, and this report will depend on you members of the public to come and report these cases online. Report them so that we can now produce a report that is authentic. This report will feed into the reports that the international community, the various bodies in the international community are producing. And we are already in talks with such bodies such as the UN and the other governments that have shown interest in our work to ensure that our human rights report should feed into their reports.
Very insightful. Mr. Mons, it's been a pleasure having you on Voice of the People this morning.
Thank you very much for hosting me, and apologies that we started a bit late. Sincere apologies. I hope that next time I would be very early so that we can exhaust this discussion and talk about Section 155 of the Penal Code, where we have challenged that provision. People are accusing us to say, hey, you're supporting gay rights and all this, but we need to explain what we are trying to challenge in that law, that law is vague.
We will definitely take you up on that and have that conversation pretty soon. Once again, we appreciate. Apologies accepted. Our guest this morning was Mr. Isaac Monza, is the Executive Director of the Zambia Civil Liberties Union. Voice of the People is on every single day, Monday to Friday, 7:45 to 9 hours. Many thanks again, Mr. Monza.
Thank you very much.
Wake up to the best in music, news, entertainment with Power Breakfast, your favorite weekday morning show on Power 91.3 FM, Beach TV, Channel 92 on Top Stop.